What is up? This is Calling the Field Stands, the Browns breakdown episode. I'm not even sure what week of this podcast this is or which episode this is for the Browns, but we just finished up week 11. Browns fucked up the Steelers from start to finish, complete domination, but all the headlines dominated by Myles Garrett deciding to smash Rudolph in the dome with his helmet. Fucking wild scene. Twitter went absolutely insane. It was one of the wildest nights on Twitter I've ever seen in my life. The whole sports world was completely captivated, and rightfully so. Crazy thing. He's now indefinitely suspended. Obviously, we all know, the news of that and where we're standing in the whole situation. But we're gonna get into this and show our opinions. It's almost a week, a week past now at this point. Today being Tuesday. So Jeff, man, what the fuck? I don't know if there's really any other way to start it other than what the fuck.
Only the Browns could taint a long-wanted victory over the goddamn Pittsburgh Steelers, man.
First victory over the Steelers in a half a decade. And they, like I said, completely dominated the game from start to finish. Ended up being 21-7. The only scoring drive Pittsburgh had was 60 or 80% penalty yards on that drive or something like that. Multiple of those being complete horseshit. And so came out of the gates firing, scored early, hit a lull, but ended up, the defense just dominated. And, you won by 2 touchdowns, and the game was never close. But all we're talking about is Myles Garrett getting indefinitely suspended. One of those instances where you see it on TV and you know instantly this dude is done. Best player on the team, done. So, I guess there's really not a whole lot to say. I mean, there are some opinions, I guess, of people saying he should be kicked out of the league or all these kind of goofy arguments. But, just I guess quickly, if we could get into where we stand on the whole issue. I mean, every point has more or less been presented at this, at this point. Everyone's kind of giving their opinions. We're several days out, and it, like I said, dominated the headlines for multiple days. But, where do you sit on this? I know we had some emotional texts the day after, and you were throwing out some wild comments like we should cut Myles Garrett and all this kind of stuff. So
I didn't say we should.
Okay.
Didn't say we should definitively
you said
release him. That's not my comment.
You said it should certainly be on the table. But, maybe it's different now. What's your opinion now? Obviously, that was, the first day after this whole went down. What's your opinion now? Where do you stand on the whole Myles situation? Are you past it? Are you still looking back? Because honestly, first time we beat Pittsburgh in forever, and almost I felt like not that excited after the game was finally over, and I watched the whole situation go down. It was like it pulled away from an incredible win against the Steelers that we haven't felt in years. Personally, I'm kind of I'm over the Myles thing. I'm kind of past it personally. Where do you stand on your emotions, I guess, at this point?
I'm not past it because I as a fan, and now we discuss sports now on this podcast. I really try to stay consistent and non-biased with my views and opinions. And I've always said, if the Browns ever have a player like Vontaze Burfict, I would really be pissed off. Now, I'm not saying Myles is anywhere close to that dirty fucking asshole, but at the same time, like, I see dirty plays on the field that I dislike. Brandon Spikes, a linebacker for Florida, when Urban was there, was caught eye gouging at the goal line in a pile, and his suspension was only 2 quarters. 2 quarters for something fucked up like that. Like, I remember at the time very vividly, like, that is a fucked up act to do to another human, and he should be punished for it. It's fucked up. Swinging a helmet at another person's head without a helmet is also fucked up. So, I understand, like, this has happened in the past. People were posting clips of former players swinging a helmet, like, during a game and only getting 1 game suspension and saying, well, why does Myles get more than that? I don't give a fuck about that. At the time, it should have been a more drastic suspension. So I'm not quite over it. I'm not going to lie. Like, seeing Myles when he does come back, probably next year at this point, he's not going to win an appeal. He's done for the year. I'm always going to feel a little bit tainted. I understand he has always been really good for the city of Cleveland off the field and whatnot. And I don't view him anywhere close to like a James Harrison or a Vontaze Burfict, two players Cleveland definitely hates. I think the whole league views Vontaze Burfict as a dirty ass player, which he is. I don't view Myles like that, but I keep going back and watching the play and watching him. I mean, he fucking aims right at his head, dude. I mean, he aims right at him and brings the fucking helmet down. And he's, everyone involved is lucky that the helmet was oriented the way it was, and the backside of that bottom part of the helmet hit him.
Could have killed him.
It wasn't, if it was flipped over
he could
and like
killed
the crown of the helmet hit him in the crown of the head.
Yeah.
Dude, Myles Garrett is like 6'6", 6'7". That's a huge, strong as fuck. I mean, he fucking wound up and like, I don't know. It's fucked up. I can't, every time I go back and watch it, I'm still blown away.
I'm with you. I'm baffled. Like, I can't even believe what I'm seeing every single time I even watch a replay almost a week later.
Yeah.
Like, so I almost forget how fucked up it is, and then I watch it and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
It's
same
messed
reaction
up.
every time.
I'm not saying he should be out of the league. I don't understand those kind of. There are, not that this should justify anything. I mean, there are players in the league that, it's more justifiable to ban them from the league for this or that. Because I also see the side of this. Emotions are high on the field. Myles Garrett was just in a tussle on the ground. Mason Rudolph, it's clear as fucking day on the video. Something maybe even happened before he tried to grab Myles' helmet, but he does very. It's clear he takes two hands and actually turns Myles' head. Like, you can see his head turn on the ground, and his helmet actually starts to come off.
He goes after him.
So like when Myles gets up, yeah, he's gonna be fucking pissed. So he rips Rudolph's helmet off, which. Even that is not, that's not cool, but it could have ended there. But I also see the side of Myles overreacting to when he's got one offensive lineman right in his face, not doing anything, but trying to back him off. Okay. Then you've got another offensive lineman coming at you also to get you just get you the fuck out, but you don't know what they're about to do. Then you get Rudolph coming back up and starts running at you, saying who the fuck knows what, and he just snaps.
He lost it.
We don't know how we would react in that situation. I can tell you this: I'd be on fucking high alert. Yeah. I got two big ass offensive linemen in my face, and I got some other dude coming at me yelling shit. Like, I don't know how I'd react, but striking a dude in the head with a helmet is just it needs to be punished. It's unacceptable, no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah, it's completely over the line. I mean, you can't really argue that. And actually, you kind of took my question a little bit in a different direction. I meant more like, are you over it so far as like as a Browns fan and like looking ahead to the season and things like that? But I'm glad you kind of, I'm obviously we'll get into that, but I'm glad you kind of broke down where you're standing, because I think I'm very much in the same boat with the act, completely fucked up. But I mean, I don't see him as a dirty player whatsoever, to be honest. He had some personal foul penalties early in the season. He punched a dude in the face in the first game of the season. I wouldn't really call that dirty. I mean, he's emotional. He's made some late hits that's kind of been borderline, but there's nothing that's been too egregious. Even the penalty on the backup QB for the Jets, Folk or whatever the fuck his name was, fucked up his ankle. I mean, that was a football
Simeon,
player.
wasn't it?
Simeon, okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So, I mean, that was a football play. You can call it dirty. It was late, of course, and it ended up breaking the dude's ankle. He wasn't, I mean, I see dirty as intentionally hurting another player. That's dirty to me. Vontaze Burfict intentionally tries to hurt other players.
Yes.
James Harrison intentionally tried to kill Colt McCoy on national TV.
Like, that was great. He saw the whole thing play out in his mind.
In my opinion, this is the first time I've seen Myles make a dirty play, because that's dirty. What we saw was dirty. whether it was, obviously it was emotional, obviously all the things that were in play with Rudolph ripping his head and potentially kicking him in the dick and, running back up on him when you got a offensive lineman basically grabbing Myles, like all that aside, hitting another dude with the helmet is dirty as fuck, and it's inexcusable. I think the penalty that he received was about what I expected. I expected him to get the season. Obviously, it's still up in the air and kind of this indefinite situation, but I'd be surprised if he's suspended into next season. But I mean, overall, it's just super unfortunate. I don't think they should cut him. I don't think they should trade him. I don't think any of that. I think he, like you said, he just lost it. I mean, we saw a video on Twitter with Michael Strahan giving his perspective. He straight up said he's cracked a dude with a helmet in practice. That just happened to be in practice, so a lot of people never even knew that existed. Most probably didn't. He obviously didn't get suspended, or at least we don't know the whole outcome of that whole situation. But I mean, and is Michael Strahan considered a dirty player? Of course not. He's one of the greatest, and he's a beloved guy. But he did the same thing Myles did. Myles just happened to do it in a game. And just thinking practice, dude, Strahan's hitting his own cat. Like,
right.
That's pretty fucked up, too. So shit goes awry. These guys are freak athletes who have, I couldn't even imagine the mentality you would have to have as a defensive end, and especially at his caliber in the NFL. Like, him off the field is one thing. Everybody knows kind of the different things Myles does and who he is kind of as a person, what we see on Twitter and how he's on Hard Knocks reading poems and shit. He's just kind of a weird, goofy dude. I mean, his fucking German Shepherd is named after a Dragon Ball Z character. Like, he's a different guy. And I feel like he's actually very reserved and all that kind of stuff. But when you get between those lines, if you're going to be a defensive end in the NFL, you're not going to be solemn. You're going to have to be a fucking animal to compete in this league. And his animal instinct, if you want to call it that, he fucking snapped and he lost it. And it's unfortunate because it's going to have a very, very heavy impact on the rest of the season, particularly when we play, Kyler Murray in Arizona and come back home against Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. Like, he's your best defensive player, best player probably on the entire team. And two of the biggest games that we'll get into here in a minute, you're not going to have him on the field. It's unfortunate. Do I think the Browns season is over? No. Is he the most important player on the Browns? No. Do they still have a chance to make the playoffs? And do they have a decent chance to make the playoffs? Of course, I believe that. Yes, they do. A couple games can really set yourself up to really make a push, but it is super unfortunate. My emotions are a little bit more tame now. Because when I asked you the question, like, I was kind of mentioning, like, are you past it? I'm kind of past it. I'm over it. It's fucked up. He's done for the year. Not really concerned. Like, it's over. Like, what are we going to do about it? Nothing we could do. Let's focus on slapping the Dolphins and going back on the road against Pittsburgh to really get back to 500, really set yourself up for the rest of the season. So in that respect, I'm kind of past it. But obviously, it's terrible, and it's super unfortunate, and it's real fucked up. I mean, I'm not going to make any excuses. Myles fucked up, and it's inexcusable, and he deserves every one of the games he gets.
Right. And where I was coming from to provide some context with that, should releasing him be on the table for the Browns, where my concern is at with this franchise is the overall culture that they're trying to establish if they want to be respected around the league and if they want a winning culture. In the past, and I understand this is before Dorsey got here, for the most part, it's like the Browns keep giving players and coaches chance after chance after chance, whether it's from on-field results, discipline actions. I mean, you name it. This franchise in its recent history is kind of a joke. I mean, it's a joke. So the way I'd view this action as an owner, if I own the team, is that a voted captain just made a mockery again of my franchise that I'm trying to change and not be a mockery around the league. So part of that was emotional, but at the same time, we need a good culture. I mean, these franchises are businesses, and let's face it, the franchises that are successful on the field are because they are well-ran businesses. So I am worried about the culture thing. I mean, he is a captain. He's supposed to be a leader of this team, and he's, whether, it wasn't to this degree that we saw, but he has lost his cool this year. The Tennessee game was even that game where he straight up hit the dude across the face mat. That was like, I'd never seen that before from Myles. I was like, well, where the fuck did this come from?
What is he doing?
So I don't know if this is something that has been boiling up all year. I don't know. It's very bizarre that it happened, but I'm not saying the Browns should release him, and I've backed away from that comment when I first made it, but that is the context I'm coming from. We've got a culture to establish.
Yeah, no, I get that.
We need to fucking win. We need a well-ran organization. Like the whole Callaway ordeal, like that should have happened earlier on.
And I know you slice his ass for weeks, but
yeah, exactly.
Going back to the Myles thing, I understand what you're saying with the whole culture and developing a winning culture is a long-term thing that needs to be consciously thought about every day. And that hasn't been the case for the Browns for a very long time. But Myles Garrett, I think, isn't a guy who's shown to be anything but positive in the locker room, anything but positive on the field. Outside of punching that dude in the face in Tennessee, which was 15 yards, which, I mean, it's not that extreme, but
it's not.
Still. But then this, it's not like he has a history of this. It's not like he's been a problem in the locker room. It's not like any of these things. He's the best player on the team, and you're obviously not going to want to cut your best player. But if he was getting to the point where he was degrading the culture, that'd be one thing. But I don't think this one incident is going to define him, and it's going to define the culture of the Browns.
And I don't think it should define him. That's why I'm saying I never even crossed my mind that he should be out of the league and never playing NFL football again. But that's a little
yeah. But my point is, you still have to take that into account as an organization of who the person is, what they mean to the team, how they have ever projected and portrayed themselves to this point. Their whole presence in the locker room, their impact to the locker room, and just who they are as a person definitely impacts. Like if this was anybody else, or maybe not anybody else, but somebody who's had a history of kind of incidents and things that have been like this, I think you may have more of a different approach. But by all accounts, he is a great dude and, is a warm soul off the field and all this kind of stuff. And in the locker room, just a moment of him flipping the fuck out. And if there's ever an opportunity and a, how would I say, like excuse, that's not the right term, but a reason, I guess, for giving a guy a second chance, this is about as clear cut as a deserving of a second chance that I can think of for a heinous act up to this point. You think about Adrian Peterson's situation, dude got a year for the whole thing with the son and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I can't really remember the details of how his contract and all that kind of stuff went down, but if he got 6 games, they're not going to just cut Adrian Peterson. Like to that point, was there any incidents?
Right.
Or was there any problems? I do think that matters, and I do think it matters in this perspective. And I don't even think Dorsey or the Haslams or anybody ever thought we're going to cut ties with Myles Garrett. I think the idea is let's kind of figure out what the fuck is going on and make him flip out like that.
Right.
And let's make sure it doesn't happen again. And I don't think anything like this will happen. I think that he's going to come out on the other side as a much better long-term play. I don't think you're going to see these goofy penalties anymore with him punching guys in the face. It's unfortunate that it comes, and it's like, why couldn't this happen when we were going 1-15?
Right.
No,
I can't figure that out.
We're right in the thick of it. Let's get into that now. I mean, like I said, this is almost a week past. This has been talked about incessantly for the last almost week now. Just the whole situation, and it's, worthy of doing that. Like, we should be talking about it. Everybody should be talking about it. But I think pretty much everything has been said that needs to be said and can be said.
He's going to do his time. He's going to come back, and I hope when he does come back next year for the Browns, we don't see anything anywhere in the realm of what we saw on Thursday. Yeah. And if that's the case, then Myles will quickly come back to being well-renowned around the league and well-respected. So
yeah, and one final point, this is also, go back to the culture perspective and what this means for the organization and all that kind of stuff. This is a clear, in my opinion, an opportunity, a learning and teaching opportunity for both the organization and Myles Garrett and the team and really the league, if you want to kind of do it in more perspective of that broader sense. But the Browns have an opportunity to kind of figure out how to handle these situations and do it in the right way and make sure that it doesn't happen again and make sure it's handled in the proper manner and really set a tone for the culture of their organization by handling this appropriately. I guess we'll see what happens.
Right.
But I think we're on the right track. We haven't really heard much about it from the Browns' perspective ever since this happened.
I do kind of
hold on. Another real quick thing. One thing that we have when we talk about culture, every player, every Browns organization employee, players top to bottom, Dorsey, anybody, has condoned it from the start. Baker Mayfield's on the field talking to Aaron Andrews, saying how inexcusable. He could have easily just said, you know what, I didn't get a good look at it. I wasn't really watching the replay. I didn't see what happened. Maybe I'll go look at the tape and maybe comment on it later. He did not say any of that. He was minutes after this went down with Aaron Andrews, national TV, and talking about how inexcusable it is and how it's unacceptable for an organization and the team. I respect the fuck out of that. Same thing, OBJ in the locker room saying the same thing. All the guys in the locker room saying the same thing. The leaders of the team instantly were like, this is fucked up. We cannot have this in our team. So that kind of speaks a little bit to maybe the direction of the culture. I'm sure they got plenty, other than Baker on the field, but in the locker room, I'm sure they got plenty of talk by the PR guys and all that kind of stuff before the media was allowed in. But regardless, I think what was said by Freddie was fucking furious in the press conference after I watched, by the way. Everybody from Freddie, Dorsey, Haslam's down to all the players have been staunch on the whole point of this is fucked up, inexcusable, and more or less he deserves every penalty that he gets and all the games that he gets. And I think that speaks a little bit to the culture point that you mentioned.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I liked what Baker had to say. What I was about to say when I rudely tried to interrupt your
my bad.
Your rant there. I do wonder what the Browns, like if it wasn't up to the NFL and it was only up to the Browns organization for punishment, I do wonder what would have came about handling Myles Garrett. But after Whitehead got on Twitter and was threatening, I mean, he threatened Dustin Fox and was going on a rampage on Twitter. We promptly cut him.
Right.
Good to see. Easy decision, but you got to make them. And then the whole Callaway thing.
That's a perfect example. Like obviously that was a guy who wasn't that important to the team. However, if that's Demarius Randall, how is that handled differently? I bet they still cut him. If he's on Twitter,
you can't do it.
Threatening lives and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
being racist.
I would
and
hope
all that
so.
kind of stuff.
I would hope so.
I think they would have cut him, but I guess we'll never really know. I hope they would have cut him.
Right, and
if Myles Garrett would have done that, I'd be calling for him.
Yes,
to get cut.
I mean you can't do that. And then the whole Callaway thing, like I felt like he got too many chances, but they finally cut ties with him. So I like that they finally did that. Going back to this whole culture thing. So talking about the locker room stuff, it now takes guys like Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry. I know Nick Chubb is kind of a little more reserved, but he's probably the best offensive player on the team based on what we've seen this year. And he's a leader. Kareem Hunt coming back. He's shown that he can fucking make plays on the field. Those dudes that step up every single game, people naturally listen to what they have to say. And they really need to rally in that locker room. Like, look, we all agree what Myles did was fucked up, but we got to move forward. We got to win some fucking games. So how are we going to respond to this? All 22 guys on the field, that see the field need to step their game up. Then the DBs, they're going to have to cover, that second longer now. They don't have Myles pushing the left tackle, making him look like he's on skates. The defensive linemen, I mean, we need Vernon back ASAP. Chad Thomas is going to have to step up. Ogunjobi, when he's back from his 1-game suspension, is going to have to step up. Sheldon Richardson, Joe Schobert, like Mac Wilson, everyone's going to have to hold their responsibilities a little bit longer. And offensively, your defense isn't going to bail you out, man, without Myles Garrett. It's just you've got to step up even more so. And the good thing is we've seen Baker get a little bit more on track here these past games.
Yes.
Maybe, his numbers don't look like super spectacular against the Steelers, but what you're seeing is him being a little more poised in the pocket, making throws on the run, and just making the big throws, impactful throws in general, where okay, this is the Baker we thought we were going to see glimpses of, where he delivers the ball in big moments and makes big plays.
Yeah, and you're seeing him, like you mentioned, like making plays that he wasn't making earlier in the season. He's running around making shit happen. One of my favorite plays of last week was, and you talk about his numbers weren't that great. They got to a big lead early, 2-touchdown lead. I always felt like if they could just get to if they would have got another score, 3-score game, and a couple missed field goals away from that, it would have just really been demoralizing. But it turned out that Steelers were never even close to ever being able to come back. But one of my favorite plays was, so my point was, like, their defense is legit as fuck. Like, the Steelers have one of the better defenses in the league. Scored ahead early, dominated on defense. That's pretty much the recipe, in my opinion, to win games for the Browns this season. But so when you look at his numbers, are they spectacular? No, but
and I'm talking passing game,
right? But that's exactly what we needed to do against one of the better defenses in the league. I didn't expect for him to throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns against that defense, especially that pass rush. But one of my favorite plays, I forget who it was coming off the edge on the right side. Baker basically like fools the motherfucker out of his shoes. Steps up. I think he did a little pump fake situation. Fooled the fucking end coming off the edge. Ran right past him. Instead, he stepped up in the pocket, delivered a bomb down the middle. I think it was some cat named Hodge that I've never heard of on the Browns before, catching a long ass catch that
41 yards.
Yeah, we saw what we saw. We saw from Baker what we saw at the second half of last season, and that's what we want to build upon. Everybody's talking about Freddie as a trash coach. All they've done in the last couple of weeks has improved. All they've done is all the issues that I've seen on the offense that occurred in the first few weeks are gone or have been the last couple of weeks, especially against the Steelers. You could say, the Bills are another good team. The offensive line is blocking for pass plays now. Didn't see that pretty much all season. Baker's scrambling around with his legs, making throws downfield. Everything is kind of coming together. We're seeing the integration of Kareem Hunt, honestly, what we expected, which was kind of unexpected because Freddie had a hard time incorporating guys like OBJ and Jarvis Landry in the offense early in the season, and all that, incorporating Chubb in a whole situation. What are we going to throw another guy in there, and all of a sudden he's going to figure it all out? That's exactly what's happened. Baker's looked like Baker of old. Everything's kind of going in the right direction. And you mentioned the two guys being the leaders that you need to step up, being Baker and Juice, and I agree. Those are, in my opinion, the two most important leaders on the team right now. It's hard to argue with Baker, obviously the quarterback, but then Juice, his impact is felt throughout the entire team.
He's
offense
a big deal.
And defense. He is the truth. He just set the record for most receptions in the first 5 seasons of a career or something like that. He, day in, day out, game in, game out, does nothing but ball the fuck out. Consistent as shit. And he is the perfect leader. We saw it on Hard Knocks. Everybody talked about it, and rightfully so. That whole rant that he went on, about how being contagious and all that kind of stuff. People kind of looked the other way, almost like, okay, Jarvis, what are you talking about? It's the Browns, same old Browns. I think that set a big tone, and I think he carries that attitude every single game and throughout the whole team, defense and offense. My question is, and what I want to see is who is going to step up on the defensive side of the ball now that Myles is gone as that leader and as that captain. We saw Joe Schobert have probably the game of his career last week against Steelers. Granted, it's against Mason Rudolph, and their offense is atrocious. But he made some plays. He made some instinctual plays that we haven't seen from him a lot in recent games in his career. Maybe he's a guy. I don't know. Larry missing a game. Maybe he comes back and sets a tone as a captain. You still got Demarius as a veteran guy. Who do you see as the defensive player who fills the shoes as captain that Myles is leaving for the rest of the season?
It's tough to pick one, if I'm going to be honest, but the easy
Kirksey is to be another one, but he's obviously done for the season.
That he would be the easy
right.
pick. Schobert is an easy pick too, and I think he can do it.
Yeah, he's got to be the guy. Really.
He was a reliable. He's been a reliable linebacker for us, and like you said, career game. I don't care if it's against Rudolph. Man, he was insane.
He was.
Jake Burns, great follow for Browns fans on Twitter. He even tweeted, "We need to blitz Schobert more because when we do, he just seems like he is highly effective. And now without Myles Garrett, what better time to start dialing up more blitzes with him?" So I think Schobert is a guy. I don't really know a whole lot about Denzel Ward's personality and how he is in the locker room, but I'm just trying to think of talented players that people would respect. And I mean, he came in as a rookie, and dude, he made so many good plays early as a rookie last year. So
first game of the year had, I think, 2 picks against Big Ben.
Yeah, No, there was.
Come on,
he had he made plays,
made an impact immediately.
Interceptions. I know he had a sick ass strip. I forget who it was, but I can picture the play. I just can't picture the team. I think those two on defense. It definitely needs to be Schobert, though. I mean, he's right in the center of the defense. He needs to step up big time as a leader on that defense. But overall on this team, something I've been thinking about that is like a huge missing ingredient is not just experience, because we are one of the youngest rosters, if not the youngest in the NFL. And I would say we're the most talented roster. We have the most talented players under the age of 25. I think there was an article specifically about that issued by some sort of outlet. We don't have a lot of guys that have been in other franchises, and obviously with us, that have been on a lot of winning teams. We don't have a lot of guys that have been part of a winning culture. You have Juice, who is a really good leader, but it's not like he's coming from a great franchise with a great culture of winning. Odell, he was with the freaking Giants. Then the younger players have only been with the Browns, and we have never had a winning culture. Last year we rattled off 7 wins to finish, but it's not a franchise that has consistent success. So I think some of the issues this year, and then you factor in Freddie, first-time head coach. I mean, coming from a running backs coach to offensive coordinator in the same year, then to head coach all of a sudden. We don't have that many people actually on the field, from coaches to players, that have been part of like that consistent winning culture.
Yeah, the only guy who I can think of and who I want to see, in addition to Schobert obviously needs to be that guy, in my opinion. I agree with you. Like you said, he's right in the middle. He's a linebacker. Kirk's is already out. He needs to set the tone from the middle and be the guy who coordinates and kind of directs the whole defense. The other guy who I want to see, and you talk about Denzel, he's a young guy, second year, and we don't really know his personality. And if he's that kind of leader, he's more, I feel like, could be a leader with his play more than with his voice. But who I want to see, and another guy who I don't really know his personality all that much, to be honest, is Demarius Randall. Coming from Green Bay, they went 10-6 his first 2 seasons at Green Bay, in that winning culture, around Aaron Rodgers, around what Green Bay Packers organization expects from their players. And who knows, maybe that's a part of maybe he's not a good leader or a good fit for that Packers organization, and maybe that's why they traded him. Or maybe they just saw that he wasn't, Deshaun Kaiser was a better fit for the organization than Demarius Randall. I don't really know that situation. I don't know why they traded him. Maybe he's not good leader. I don't know, but his play certainly is one of the best on our team defensively. And if he can be a guy, especially in the secondary, with all that young, Greedy on one side, Denzel on the other side, you got Burnett is done for the season. So you got a backup there, a safety playing alongside Demarius.
Another rookie.
Right.
Red wine.
Right. He needs to be the leader of the secondary, with Schobert being the leader of basically the whole defense. And then I'd like to see D-line, I don't know, Larry or even Vernon.
Vernon needs to
more of a veteran guy too. So, but I would like to see Demarius step into a little bit of a leadership position and set the tone for the young core of secondary guys and really make something happen because, like I said, we're going to need something. We're going to need some leader. We're going to need some people to pick up the slack. The loss of Myles Garrett will certainly be felt for the Browns, but I don't think, and like I mentioned, he's not the most important player. The most important player in the Browns is Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's off the field, they might not win a game, or they'd be hard-pressed to win games. So it's not the end of the world that Myles is gone. And when we look ahead to the rest of the schedule and what it would take for the Browns to make the playoffs, it's pretty clear in my opinion. First of all, handle your fucking business against one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Miami Dolphins. I feel like that is a game where Baker wouldn't actually need to play, and we could probably win. We should win, along with the 2 games against the Cincinnati Bengals, which, in my opinion, are almost unlosable games at this point.
No, they're going to beat both. They're going to beat them both games.
Yes,
no doubt.
They're almost. They would have to really fucking try to lose those 2 games against Cincinnati. The talent discrepancy is astronomical.
They're losing all 16, man.
I think they will, to be honest. I don't know what the rest of their schedule is, but they should.
It doesn't matter.
They should lose
suck.
If they play the Jets, maybe they win. If they play the Redskins, maybe they squeak one out. Even the Dolphins, I don't think the Dolphins are anything special, even though they have 2 wins now.
Dude, Fitzpatrick can beat the Dolphins.
You mean the Bengals? Yeah, dude. Yeah,
he
could.
Shit.
He could.
Yes, beat the Bengals.
He could. He could, definitely. So, when you look at the rest of the schedule and what it's going to take for the Browns to make a playoffs, and at 4-6, it's kind of crazy to think that they actually have a legit chance, and that thinking that they even still have a chance without their best player, fuck it. It's pretty clear. Like I said, he's not Baker. We didn't lose Baker Mayfield. We lost at the end. Is it going to be significant? Of course. Is it going to be the end of the world? No. So handle your business against the Dolphins. And then you have an opportunity to go get back to 500 on the road against Pittsburgh. You win that game, it's set up. All you got to do at that point would be basically split 1-1 at least with at the Cardinals, who have a rookie quarterback who aren't very good either, or home against the Ravens, who are looking to be one of the better teams in the league. Kind of eating my words a little bit there. I'm still very, very skeptical about what the Ravens will be able to do the rest of the season. I'm sure we'll get into that on the regular episode of Calling the Field Stands. But handle your business this week at Pittsburgh, one of the biggest games in the organization since, I don't know, 2006.
Yeah, that dude. That game will be huge.
So
huge.
First things first, handle the Dolphins. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Then you got the Steelers, and that's where it all kind of comes together. We just saw what happened against the Steelers. We just saw what the Browns should be able to do against that team. They are, in my opinion, very much more talented than the Steelers. I think I even mentioned on last week's episode, the key is against the Steelers, their defenses are more or less matched. They're very similar. So if you play solid defensively and don't turn the ball over, you win with ease.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we saw Thursday night, and that's exactly what the recipe is going to be in 2 weeks when we go back to Pittsburgh. Handle your shit on defense. Don't give up huge plays. Don't make penalties. Do your shit. Compete at least with the other side of the ball, the Steelers defense. And then offensively, you're so much better and outnumbered. And that's another thing. We have our entire offense still on the field. We just added Higgins, who's getting more incorporated. His more incorporation to the
offense.
God. Right. Baker's looking like Baker of old. Now you add Kareem Hunt, too. It's like the offense is one of the best in the league, and what we've wanted to see, well, the best in the league on paper, I should say. So it's kind of, in my opinion, coming together a little bit, and we outmatch every team offensively. Really, the one big game that we don't really outmatch is the Ravens, and I think we have a better defense than the Ravens, but that's going to be a really tough game. But all the other games are very, very winnable. Beating the Bills was huge. Should have beat the Broncos. We even talked about beat the Broncos, and if you lose to the Bills, you still have a shot. Well, the reverse happened, and we're still talking about them having a shot. So what's kind of your outlook on the rest of the season? What do you think is going to kind of come together? What do you need? What do you think kind of has to fall into place? What's the outlook for you?
I've said my prediction from the start was 9-7, and what we've both, and not just us, have said is you can't venture too far away from 500, especially when you get to that midway point, and we did. And then you lose to the Broncos, which really, really sucks.
If you win that game, this whole season, this whole conversation is Very, very, very different.
Oh man, especially
Very
with
different.
coming off wins against the Bills and
You'd be sitting at 5-5 right now with basically 3 teams that you are going to waltz into victories against.
8-5 guaranteed there.
Guaranteed.
But hey,
then you need one of the next 3. But you know what? So be's it. You lose games, you should win.
right.
It just happens when you're a young team with a rookie head coach, and your most talented player on offense, arguably, is a new player on the team in OBJ, and your quarterback and running back are both second-year guys.
It's not easy.
It's not going to be easy. I don't know why anybody expected them to just come out. I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. I thought they were going to come out firing on all cylinders, but the fact that it didn't doesn't mean we should be going and firing Freddie Kitchens. Doesn't mean that we suck all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I think we're right there. And
No,
I think it's kind of finally all coming together, and we're still hearing the conversations and the rhetoric about fire Freddie Kitchens. The Browns still suck.
Just let
He's
us see
holding
16
us back.
games.
Right. Freddie Kitchens is holding the Browns back. Pump the brakes a little bit. Let's see how this goes. We're finally getting a groove. Baker finally looks like old Baker. And now we're still having these conversations about ripping the head coach and starting anew again.
Yeah.
How many times have we started anew? Fuck that.
Ye-
Let's give some time to shit to come together. I don't think people realize how hard it is for a rookie head coach and all this young talent, like you mentioned, one of the youngest teams in the league, to come together and just start dominating teams. Yes, they have a fuck ton of talent. They're still a young-ass team with a rookie head coach. It's going to take a little bit of time to kind of come together and mold and mesh and establish your identity.
Right.
And I think that they're still in the midst, and I think they might be able to and they may be figuring it out. I think the last couple of weeks we've seen them figure it out a little bit so far as the identity. And if that can continue through the rest of the season, I think people's conversations about cutting ties with Freddie are going to stop.
Right. No, I expected bumps in the road, not as many as we had.
I mean, 9-7,
early
that's
in
a
the
lot
season.
of bumps. That's a reasonable prediction.
Yeah,
9-7
exactly.
To expect bumps.
But with that 9-7 prediction, I definitely didn't expect. Like I said earlier, I can defend a lot of the losses early on, but I did not expect the play on offense to be as atrocious as it was.
It was
at
bad.
times. So
It was bad. And we were hammering Freddie, rightfully so, for his play calling and that kind of stuff.
right, but
But that's been cleaned up, I think.
What's crazy is this year we hammered the Ravens, and we hammered the Steelers. It's just kind of crazy that we can say that, and we're sitting at 4-6.
First
here,
time
10
in
games
Cleveland
through.
Browns history they beat the Steelers and the Ravens both in the same season.
Yeah,
Mind-boggling to me.
right. But
20
anywho,
years we've never beat them both in the same season.
Right.
20 years.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So, nothing you can do about it now. They're 4-6. Got to win versus a well-coached Bills team, and then the Steelers. And, my outlook is you're going to beat the Dolphins. Then you go on the road against the Steelers. And if you win the next 2, and I think they definitely should, now you're at 6-6 going
Go time.
into a home game against the Bengals that you're going to win. So that Steelers game on the road,
Huge.
like you said, it's huge. They have to win, and they realistically should be sitting at 7-6 going into a tough Cardinals team. I say tough because their offense has gotten it going after the first few weeks.
Kyler Murray's the truth, bro.
He's really good.
I didn't expect him to be very good. He's legit.
Kingsbury is
athletic
a
and he's
good
good.
offensive mind and knows how to use Murray. His knock has been in-game decisions,
Yeah.
kind of holding them back.
Their
And
defense is also not very good.
no, and I kind of actually saw some interesting tweets about how the air raid coaches in college football, it's almost consistent. Like all of them have a negative of in-game management, but it's a team that obviously we have more talent than, and we should win that game on the road.
Should definitely win that game.
You only have, you can only afford one loss rest of the way out to get to that 9-7 to realistically be considered in that playoff hunt for the final 6 in the AFC. So with the Ravens still on the schedule, I mean, you can definitively say we have more talent on paper than the rest of the teams on our schedule, except the Ravens,
Sure.
where you could go back and forth between, you could argue for either side. But in order for us to achieve that goal, that offense now, especially with Kareem Hunt back, who has been a baller and Kitchens has actually used him pretty well, for his first couple games being back. And you have a horse like Nick Chubb. I think the management of those two has been really good. That offense has to start building on what they've established now and take over games and take over the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I think I even named the last episode of the podcast something about build something or other, something about building and building the success that you've had. And, that's what we saw. We saw him build from the Bills game. Now we need to see him build from this Steelers win and build after we fuck up the Dolphins, which if they lose to the Dolphins, that's
just stop. We'll just stop this episode of the podcast. It just won't even be worth giving the Browns attention anymore.
But that shouldn't happen. So build some shit off of that, and then you get into the real shit of the season. And to be honest, like you mentioned, I'm more fearful of the Cardinals at this moment than the Steelers, which is pretty wild. I just don't have any faith that their Steelers offense, has any shot against the Browns.
Kyler Murray making big plays scares me more than fucking Mason Rudolph. Bum ass.
Correct. I have no faith that the Steelers offense will be able to do anything with the Browns defense, regardless if Myles is on the field, which he won't be, obviously. Regardless of with him not being on the field, I still think the Steelers offense is atrocious. They have basically no playmakers. Juju has been non-existent all season. I mentioned it last year, one 100-yard game all season. He gets injured last week. Mason Rudolph is a fucking bum. James Conner's overrated. They're just not very good offensively.
No.
Their defense is great, but so is the Browns, with or without Myles Garrett. I know we got some injuries, but
they still have some players on that side.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm more fearful of what could happen in that Cardinals game. So we'll see. We see the Steelers a lot. We don't see the Cardinals very often. So that's going to be a big game, and obviously the Ravens is already fucked them up somehow. I don't know how. The worst game the Ravens have played all season is against the Browns. Pretty wild at home, albeit, but it's shaping up to really tell who the Browns are going to be this season. And if they lose to the Dolphins, well, they were never going to do anything anyways. They were never going to be. If they lose to the Steelers on the road that week, they're probably never going to do anything anyways. They're just not good enough. So I think we're in the moment now where if they win and start winning games that we think they should win, then yes, they could be a legit contender. But if they lose one of these fucked up games, they deserve to miss the playoffs.
Right. I see them winning at least 4 games out of the remaining 6. I see us at least getting to 500 at the end of the year. I really do.
Yeah. I would love to see that Steelers beating the Steelers twice in the same season would be incredible. And also beating a team that we just fucked up and that we honestly should beat. And I think if you build that momentum, that would be 4 games straight. Yeah. Twice against the Steelers, your divisional rival who have fucking bullied the piss out of you for the last
Miami
10,
and
20
Pittsburgh,
years.
And you can say you have a 4-game winning streak. I mean,
you could really seriously see some building off of that and carry that momentum into the rest of the season. I mean, the Cardinals will probably be out of it by then. Maybe they'll roll over. Who knows? Now you have the Ravens. I don't think the division is really in grasp at this moment. The Ravens are just too good, and not that they're too good, but they have nobody left on their schedule, and they've won a lot of good games. The beating the Texans more or less solidified the division for them, I think, because I think they have the Jets on their division or the season still.
They still have to play the Niners. The Rams aren't the same team we've seen in the past, but after that, I mean, they closed the year with the Jets, Browns, Steelers.
And their record now is what?
It's not the easiest, but they're 8-2. They've already gotten out ahead of their schedule like they needed to.
I mean, I guess crazy shit could happen. They could lose all but 2, and if they lose to the Browns, we're the tiebreaker. But we're going for the wild card at this moment.
We're saying 9-7.
Right.
They're already at 8-2.
Correct.
They only have to win one more freaking game to tie what our target is. So,
they're going to beat the Jets.
Yeah, and the Bengals. They play the Bengals again.
But so if you beat them,
or the Steelers again.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I mean, but if you beat the Steelers or the Ravens, you have the at least the tiebreaker there. And I mean, I almost said if they just go 10-6, which yes, it's still on the table, but winning that many games straight.
What's crazy is I would say they have the talent on paper to beat all those teams on the schedule.
So that would mean they'd have to basically end the season with 8 straight to win the division, which possible? Yes. Do they have talent? Yes. Is it likely? Fuck no. I mean, we saw the Colts do it last year with a ton of young talent as well. They also had Andrew Luck, and that whole offensive line was real solidified, unlike the Browns is. But like I said, the Browns' offensive line has really played well. I think the Colts started the season 1-5, and won like their next 9 games straight or something
Yeah.
like that. So, I mean, it's doable. Their schedule lines up to be doable. You still got the Cardinals, you still got the Ravens, and I'm not going to just pretend like the Steelers game is a waltzing into a victory on the road. Definitely not the case. I definitely think they should win, but it's not going to just be a show up and win game.
That's
like
going to be a
this
physical
weekend.
game, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially with what happened last week. So
yes.
I know we didn't really get into what to see this upcoming Sunday against the Dolphins. I don't really think there's a whole lot to talk about.
Hopefully there's nothing to see and we
Correct.
fucking win.
I don't think we really need to spend too much time on that game in particular, other than come in, handle your business, and get out of there healthy with a victory. Get up early, sit Baker's ass in the second half, and just cruise. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than that. I don't think Baker gets benched in the second half because, I mean, the Dolphins have kind of turned their shit around a little bit, and they have Ryan Fitzpatrick has restored life, probably much to the dismay of the front office of the Dolphins. I don't know why they're winning games. Doesn't really make much sense.
It's so dumb. It's so bad. They can't even.
They trade
choke,
all their best players, and then
Tua gets hurt. Like now, there's not even.
Hey, that might even help the Dolphins. Him getting hurt, he might drop a little bit because they won a couple games.
Man, I don't know.
The Redskins probably, you would imagine, aren't going to take a QB. The Jets aren't going to take a QB. I mean, who in the top 5 is going to take a QB? You know what I mean? But regardless, this should be an easy, like you said, coastable game that they should coast into a victory. And that's what we need to see. I don't want to see a tough-fought game. I want to see them coast. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Offense, establish the run. Run the fucking rock with Chubb. Incorporate Hunt. I want to see Hunt get 10 touches this weekend.
Dude, let him tote it more than Chubb this time. You don't need Chubb.
Defense,
you don't even need Hunt, but let him get back into it.
I want to see the defense respond, losing their 2 best defensive linemen and their defensive captain. I want to see them respond and just really have a performance that shows, yes, we lost our best player. Yes, Myles Garrett's not on the field, but we're still legit as fuck. It's not a one-man show here. And they can, I mean, it's still the Dolphins, but they can kind of establish that a little bit this week, and that's what we need to see for the Dolphins. Like you said, if they lose, I don't really know there's much continuing this Browns episode of the Calling the Field Stands might not even be worth it at that point. I'm sure we'll still do it, but who knows? If they lose to the fucking Dolphins,
it's over.
We got bigger.
Cancel everything.
We got bigger problems.
Move the team.
Move the team
to Toronto. Give Canada.
Whoa. Don't joke about that. We've been through that once. No, but so yeah, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to say about this upcoming Sunday. Just handle your business. Should be a fun game out there at First Energy Stadium. Browns fans going to the game, enjoy it. We talked about it early season. We don't get a lot of opportunities to see wins in the NFL season, regardless if you're great or not. Especially at home, you get 8 games. Enjoy the fuck out of it. If they throttle them, let's go. So enjoy it. Set the tone. Be there loud for your squad and show out. And that's what we need to see this weekend, and then really set some shit up to build towards the rest of the season, and maybe, yes, maybe, make a push. We shall see. But that wraps it up. Calling the Field Stands Browns episode. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next time. Peace.